Michael Davis, a respected black man, was humiliated and handcuffed on the street for a crime he didn't commit. The officers mocked him, unaware their actions would lead to a courtroom reckoning that exposed their corruption. What Michael revealed next left everyone stunned. But let's start from the beginning. Michael Davis, a distinguished black man in his early 50s, steps out of a local bookstore, his tailored gray suit a sharp contrast to the bustling, casual crowd on the street. In his hand, he clutches a thick hardcover on constitutional law, the title glinting faintly under the afternoon sun. His stride is measured, his expression calm, a man of dignity and intellect, used to navigating life's challenges with quiet grace. As Michael pauses to tuck the receipt into his wallet, two white police officers approach, their expressions hard and suspicious. "Sir, we've had reports of shoplifting in this area. Can you show us your bag?" one demands. Michael looks up, his brow furrowing slightly in confusion. "I believe you're mistaken. I just purchased this book," he says, holding it up. His voice is steady, his tone respectful, yet firm. Before he can elaborate, the officers escalate, their hands already reaching for his arms. "Don't make this harder than it has to be," the taller officer snaps, ignoring Michael's attempts to explain. From the doorway, the bookstore manager, a bespectacled man with a kind face, rushes out. "Wait, he didn't steal anything. I just rang him up," he shouts, holding up the receipt Michael had just tucked away. The officers don't so much as glance his way. "Step back, sir. We've got this," one barks, his grip tightening on Michael's arm. With an unnecessary roughness, they slap handcuffs on Michael, the sharp click of metal causing murmurs to ripple through the growing crowd. Phones are raised, their cameras capturing the unfolding scene. Michael remains composed, even as the officers push him toward their patrol car. His calm demeanor is met with open hostility, the officers mocking his silence, interpreting it as submission. But there's a subtle confidence in his eyes, a quiet assurance that belies their taunts. Around them, bystanders begin to voice their outrage. "This is wrong," one shouts. "He didn't do anything," yells another. The air brims with tension, anger simmering as the injustice unfolds before the lenses of recording phones. Yet, in the eye of the storm, Michael's composure remains unshaken, a silent promise of a reckoning to come. The courtroom buzzed with energy, every seat filled with reporters, activists, and curious onlookers, drawn by the explosive case that had captured national attention. Michael Davis, clad in a crisp dark suit, sat at the defendant's table, his calm, unflinching demeanor a stark contrast to the palpable tension in the room. Opposite him, the two police officers smirked, their body language exuding confidence, as though victory was all but assured. As the proceedings began, the prosecution laid out their case, relying heavily on procedural jargon and dismissive arguments. The officers sat upright, nodding along as their lawyer painted them as diligent enforcers of the law. Their smug expressions barely wavered as Michael, acting as his own legal representative, rose to speak. Michael began methodically, his voice steady but commanding, presenting the timeline of events. His deliberate cadence drew the room's attention, shifting the focus away from the prosecution's narrative. He outlined the sequence of the arrest, detailing the lack of evidence, the manager's ignored testimony, and the officer's unwarranted aggression. Every word was precise, every argument reinforced by undeniable logic. Then came the moment no one in the courtroom had anticipated. "Before I proceed further, Your Honor, may I properly introduce myself?" Michael asked, his calm voice cutting through the air. With the judge's nod, he reached into his briefcase and produced an official document. "I am Michael Davis, a sworn justice of the peace, serving this community for over 15 years. The courtroom erupted in gasps, the officers visibly paling as their lawyer fumbled for composure. Michael continued, now addressing the court, with the authority of his position. He explained how the officers had not only failed to verify his credentials, but had also ignored the testimony of the bookstore manager and acted out of racial bias. His tone remained professional, but the weight of his words landed heavily. As Michael dismantled their credibility piece by piece, the officers' smugness evaporated, replaced by visible unease. The room, once filled with murmurs, was now silent, captivated by the man whose quiet resilience was transforming into a powerful reckoning. Michael Davis stood confidently at the courtroom podium, his voice calm, yet unwavering. "Your Honor," he began, "the rights afforded to every citizen under the Constitution were blatantly disregarded during my arrest." The room hung on his every word, the tension thick as he outlined the legal protections he had been denied. He referenced key constitutional provisions, including protections against unlawful detention and racial discrimination, underscoring each point with clarity and precision. The officer's attorney tried to interject, objecting on procedural grounds, but Michael's composure remained unshaken. "If I may continue," he said firmly, addressing the judge, who nodded for him to proceed. Michael introduced concrete evidence, receipts from his book purchase, timestamps from security footage, and excerpts of the police department's own code of conduct. Each piece methodically dismantled the officer's claims, leaving no room for doubt. When it came time for witness testimonies, the bookstore manager took the stand. His voice trembled slightly, but grew steadier as he recounted the incident, affirming that Michael had lawfully purchased the book and that he had repeatedly informed the officers of this fact during the arrest. Other bystanders who had recorded the event corroborated his account, sharing their videos that captured the officer's aggressive behavior and dismissive attitude. As the evidence mounted, the judge's previously neutral expression hardened. He leaned forward, his tone sharp as he questioned the officer's attorney about their client's conduct. "Why did your clients ignore clear evidence from a witness? On what grounds was such force deemed necessary?" The attorney stammered, unable to provide a satisfactory response. Meanwhile, outside the courtroom, the media frenzy grew. News outlets highlighted the stark disparity between Michael's dignified demeanor and the officer's blatant misconduct, turning public opinion against the department. Protests calling for justice erupted, their chants echoing through the courthouse halls. Back inside, the officers, once smug and self-assured, now sat stiffly, their faces pale with realization. The weight of mounting evidence, the judge's visible displeasure, and the growing public outcry made it clear. Their actions had not only jeopardized their careers, but also exposed deeper issues within the system they represented. The judge's gavel struck the sound block, the sharp crack echoing in the tense courtroom. With a steely glare fixed on the two officers, the judge began his rebuke, his voice cutting and deliberate. "This case is not just about a single incident," he stated. "It is about the very fabric of trust that binds a community to its law enforcement. Your actions, blatantly ignoring evidence, mocking a citizen, and abusing your authority, have not only violated the rights of an individual, but have eroded the public's faith in those sworn to protect them." The officers, once brimming with arrogance, sat visibly deflated. The judge declared them guilty of gross misconduct and announced their immediate dismissal from the force. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the courtroom as the decision was made. "Let this serve as a reminder," the judge concluded, "that no one is above the law, and accountability is not optional." When offered financial compensation for the ordeal, Michael Davis stood and addressed the court. "Your Honor, I appreciate the gesture, But my purpose here isn't personal gain. Instead, I request that these funds be directed toward establishing a community policing reform initiative. True justice requires systemic change, not individual reparations." His words, calm yet resolute, brought the courtroom to its feet in a rare moment of applause. Michael's selflessness sparked a wave of discussions both locally and nationally. Community leaders and activists rallied behind his proposed reform initiative, and media outlets praised his measured, principled response. Conversations about systemic racism and police accountability gained renewed momentum, with Michael's case serving as a catalyst for meaningful change. In honor of his courage, the bookstore where the incident began hosted a charity event. The proceeds were dedicated to providing legal aid for marginalized communities. The store was packed with supporters, the walls adorned with messages of gratitude and solidarity. Michael, ever modest, attended quietly, his presence a reminder of the power of resilience. Through his actions, Michael became more than a victim. He became a symbol of justice and the transformative power of truth. His story inspired countless others to stand against prejudice, proving that even in the face of injustice, dignity and determination could prevail.